We are going to be in John, the 14th chapter. If you want to take your Bible and follow me there, you can. We have to actually start back in chapter 13. This is one of the challenges of going through an entire gospel, is to keep things in its context. What is the message the first readers heard? And actually, chapter 13 goes all the way to chapter 17. That's the unit there. It's all done in the upper room. It's this discourse that Jesus has with his disciples in the upper room from chapter 13 to the end of chapter 17. Now, the first readers wouldn't have even seen the chapter and verses there. That's not going to happen for 100 years after this is all written. And another thing they wouldn't see is the paragraphs. We have paragraphs. We understand how paragraphs work in English. We have one thought, one main thought being given in a paragraph. And that's been put in by the translators, and they all can't even agree. One translation has chapter 14, verses 1 through 14 as a paragraph. Others have chapter 4, verses 1 through 4 as a paragraph. New American Standard, which I'm using, has verses 1 through 6, and so that's what we'll be looking at, 14 verses 1 through 6. But we need to see the full context. It actually starts back in chapter 13. Jesus is there with the disciples. And he has dropped some big bombs on them. He says, I'm going to leave you. And they don't know where he's going to go. Not only am I going to leave you, but one of you is a traitor. And Peter is going to deny me. And by the end of chapter 13, none of this makes sense to any of the disciples. Their minds are rushing. They're in chaos. There's confusion. They're scared and they're anxious. What does all this mean? What is he talking about? And so he continues the conversation here in chapter 14 with verse 1. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you, for I go to prepare a place for you. If I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And you know the way where I'm going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know where you're going. How do we know the way? Jesus said to him, I am the way, and the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. I don't know how many funerals I've read that at. I mean, times of anxiety, times of chaos that we're going through. It's good to remember this text. And we live in a culture that seems to be filled with fear and anxiety. This is such an important text for us to focus on. Jesus says, believe in a place and believe in a person. Believe in a person and believe in a place. Trade your chaos and confusion for faith in God. And isn't that what Christianity is all about? Having faith in God. No matter what we're going through, we're going to trust God to see us through. And so focus on who I am, Jesus is saying. Focus on who I am, where I am going, and why I am going there. Focus on the place I'm going. Jesus knew where he was going. He was not going to some unknown destination. He knew exactly where he was going. He knew what he's going to go there for. He knew where he was going. He's going to his Father's house. And he says, in my Father's house are many dwelling places. Now, the King James Version says, in my Father's house are many mansions. And that gives us, in 1611, that might have made a little more sense. But today, it gives us a different vision. We think of a mansion. We think of this large, lavish building, all sitting out by itself like a southern plantation somewhere. Other translations say that this is dwelling places. Others say rooms. Others say many rooms. The Greek actually means a permanent dwelling place. Jesus said, I'm going to my Father's house, and there are many permanent dwelling places, and I'm going to prepare one for you. I'm getting one ready for you. We're going to have a permanent dwelling place. He's getting one ready for all of us. Do you ever watch the HGTV channel? HGTV, Home and Garden channel. I hate that channel. I mean, we watch it all the time, but I don't like it very much. I mean, they have these fabulous designers, and they have these great remodels that are done, these restoration of these houses. But it bugs me sometimes because, when I moved to my house, we had these beautiful brass fixtures everywhere, the shining brass fixtures. Then after you watch that show, you say, oh, that's so 80s. We need to get rid of that. So we changed that for a Mediterranean, a Tuscany style, Oh, well, now we find out that that's not good anymore. It needs to be silver. It needs to be chrome. It needs to be pewter. It needs to be polished brass, polished nickel or something. That's different. Our appliances, it used to be appliances were white. And then they needed to be stainless steel. And then they needed to be black. And they need to be stainless steel. And now they're going back to apparently white again. We're just always out of style. That's what I learned from that show, is that we are always out of style. We're never going to be happy with what we have. We're constantly changing. We're never satisfied. And I think that's just a general state of being that a lot of us are in, is just not being quite satisfied. Paul says in 2 Corinthians, the 5th chapter, in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, he talks about us groaning. We just groan. He says, for we know that if the earthly tent, which is our house, is torn down, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. For indeed in this house we groan, longing to be clothed with our dwelling from heaven, inasmuch as we, having put it on, will not be found naked. For indeed, while we're in this tent, we groan. We are groaning. This is just not the place where we belong. This earth with this body was never intended by God to be permanent. He says, I've got a permanent place for you, but this is not it. You're going along the beach and you see a fish on the shore. And you see it gasping for air. And its gills are dry. And, is it happy? Well, no, it's not happy. It's not where it belongs. And so you give it a lot of money. You cover it with money. Is it happy? No. So you put some nice clothes on the fish. Is it happy? No. You make it a drink. Is it happy? No. Why isn't it happy? Because it's not where it's supposed to be. And that's why we are not where we're supposed to be. No wonder we're groaning. We're waiting to be where we belong with God. And Jesus, that's where I'm going. I'm going where we belong. It's a house that my Father has, and there's permanent dwellings. It's never going to go out of style. The permanent dwellings, it'll be the same after 10,000 years as it was the first day we moved in there. It'll be just as new. It'll be just as fresh. It'll be just as exciting as it was when we got there. Nothing is going to really change. It never gets boring. It never gets out of date. And better than that, we see this HGTV, and man, they have some really creative designers. But the one who's going to design our dwelling is the designer of the universe. All the beauties of the earth were created by him. I mean, I can't even imagine what his house looks like, what his rooms look like. It's going to be a spectacular place. And what Jesus is actually doing here is giving them a word picture. He's giving them a picture of something that was happening in their culture. In their culture, if a guy got engaged to a girl, he would go to his father's house and he began to build an addition onto the house. And when the father thought the addition was good enough and was done enough, he'd say, okay, you can bring your bride home to us. And the whole family would be there under this one roof in this house. And so it tells us that the best thing about heaven is not the pearly gates. It's not the golden streets. It's not the angelic choir. The great thing is that we're in the Father's house. We're with the Father. We're going to be with Jesus. That's so great. Have you ever done a tour of a mansion? I mean, we have Pitt-Up Mansion. You ever gone to Pitt-Up Mansion? Just pull over and park for a second, just let you know. If you go to the Oregon City Library, you can get a free pass to the Pitt-Up Mansion. So there you go. But you can go there. I've gone there, and I think, I don't know if I'd ever want to live here. But I've seen it, and it's pretty spectacular. And I've gone to other mansions. Maybe you have as well. I've read of Bill Gates' house. Man, that is pretty spectacular. All the technology there and all the different rooms. I think it's got like 26 rooms or something like that. I mean, it's unimaginable. I went to Hearst Castle in California. On our first anniversary, we went to Hearst Castle. It was brand new then. But it's spectacular. But most people, if you ask them, would you like to live at any of these mansions, they'll say no. And you know why? Because they want to live where their loved ones are. We want to live where our loved ones are. And that's what Jesus is saying. I'm going to my Father's house, and we're going to be ready for you. We're preparing a place for you. And so focus on this place, not only on a place, but a person. You believe in God, believe also in me. Believe in God, believe also in me. You can count here in these verses how many times Jesus uses the word I or my, over and over. I, my. Very personal here. Focus on him, focus on him. One of the things about Judaism that's so unique is that Judaism is monotheistic. They only believe in one God. That's extremely unique. All the other nations around them, all the religions of the world have more than one God. Judaism only has one God. Christians, we have one God, but we're accused by the Jews and the Muslims that we have three gods. We have one God. Three personalities. We know the idea of Trinity. We have one God and three personalities. He says, believe in God, believe also in me. That is not a double object. It's one object. We believe in God. We believe in Jesus. What Jesus does is give us a fuller picture of who God is. Usually we're introduced to God. He's the creator. We understand that the heavens are declaring the handiwork of God. That's about all we know. But we know now more about God because of who Jesus is. Jesus shows us the full glory of God. And we read about this over and over in these texts in the upper room is show me the glory. Let people see my glory. Let me see the glory that I had with you. I want people to see in me. I want them to see you. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father because they're one. They have one intention. There's God, and we see so much of God. But Jesus, he allows us to see the fullness of God. All of his manifestations, all his attributes are seen in Jesus. It's not separate. It's identical. They're indissolubly one unit. They're united as one. Believing God implies that we do believe in God. Jesus gives us a fuller, more intimate vision of who God is. Believe in God, believe also in me. Without Jesus, there's no real knowledge of who God is. We don't see the fullness of his glory until we see Jesus. God is no longer an abstract idea. He's taken on flesh and dwelt among us. You believe in God, believe also in me. When he comes and says, I am the way, the truth, and life. I am. That means I am. This God is I am. The I am is God. He's making a declaration that God and I are the same. We're equal. And so he says, focus on this place, but focus on this person. I am God. Focus on me. Focus on God. And focus on where we're going. And you know the way we're going. That's what he says in verse 4. And Thomas. I love Thomas. I'm thankful for Thomas. Thomas says, we don't know where you're going and we don't know the way. And Jesus says in verse 6, I am the way and I am the truth and I am the life. No one comes to the Father except for by me. That's been called the exclusivistic scandal of Christianity. The exclusivistic scandal of Christianity. I am the way, the truth, the life. We live in a society that wants pluralism. We want it to be inclusive. Everybody gets a prize. Everybody's right. No one's wrong. Everybody's good. We live in a post-Christian, postmodernistic culture. And to say that we're the only way is offensive. But it was offensive in the first century too. This is the reason that the Christians were persecuted. Because they said, we're the way. In fact, the church was known in the first century more as the way than anything else. It wasn't until later that they began to call us Christians. That was not a nice name. They were calling us Christians. It was a terrible name they were calling us. Now we glory in that name, of course. But the church was first known as the way, people of the way. You read that in the book of Acts, these people of the way. Because they thought that they were the only way to God. And it's not that they are a way or a truth or a life. They're saying Jesus, I'm the only one. Like I said, in our culture, that's really offensive. The idea that all religions are valid is what's being taught today. Now, just think, the idea that all religions are valid is not logical. Because if all religions are valid, then Christianity is valid. And in Christianity, Jesus says, I am the way, which excludes everything else. So either he is right or he's wrong. Either he's right and he is the way, or he's wrong and it just doesn't matter. Why would we follow him? If he's wrong, why follow? If Jesus is raised from the dead, nothing else matters. If Jesus is not raised from the dead, nothing matters. I mean, when he says, I am the way and the truth and the life, that's a logical thing to have. That's a logical statement. And so he says, I am the way. Between man's failures and the glory of God is a great gulf. There's a great chasm between our failures and God's glory. And the only way to cross that gulf is the bridge which Jesus gives us. I'm the way. I'm the only way to cross this chasm. I'm the only way to get there. It's like a missionary. He was off in the Middle East and he was trying to get across the desert. So he hired a guide. And when they got to the edge of the desert, the missionary looked, he says, well, there's no road. And the guide said to him, I am the road. I am the road. I have no the way. Jesus is the only one. He is the road. He's the only one that knows the way. He is the way across that chasm. He's the truth. Faith is only as strong as its object. Faith is only as strong as what the object of our faith is. Today we say, well, just believe. Believe in what? Just believe and believe. Just have faith in faith. Faith is only as strong as the object of our faith. Trusting a faulty airplane won't make it fly, no matter how much faith you have in it. It's pretty foolish to get on it. You see, our faith is only as strong as the object, and he says it's the truth. You have your objective of our faith is the truth, the way, the truth, and the life. Now, life in the Gospel of John is spiritual vitality. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. John 1:4. When he says, I'm the life, he means we have this vitality. We have this newness of life. We have this abundant life. It's a quality of life that we have. Without the way, there is no going. Without the truth, there is no knowing. Without the life, there is no living. And Jesus says, I want you to focus on these two ideas. I want you to focus on a place, and I want you to focus on a person. And we need this so badly today. There's so many things that cause us to be fearful. There's so many things that cause us anxiety. There's so many things that cause us uncertainty. And he says, wait, there's something that's really certain. I'm certain you can have faith in me, and you can have faith in knowing where you're going. You know where we're heading. Believe in a place and believe in a person. A few years ago, we were traveling down south, and we went to Waco, Texas. And we went into our hotel there in Waco, Texas, and told them who we were. They said, well, we have no reservation for you. I said, well, that's not possible. I made my reservation about a month ago. I know I have a reservation. And they looked around and said, oh, you know what? Your reservation was for last night, not tonight. Oh, okay. So we worked it out, and we've got through it all. But, they were surprised that we were there. In heaven, there's not going to be any surprises. God's not going to be shocked. He's waiting for you. He knows you're coming. He knows you're coming, and he's prepared a spot for you. We went to another hotel one time on our anniversary. I mean, they knew we were coming because we knew they knew we were coming when we walked into the room. Our room, we walked in our room, there were balloons, and there was a card, and there was a box of chocolates for us. They knew who we were and why we were there. And when we get to heaven, God's going to know who you are and why you're there. He's going to have it all ready for us. He's going to welcome you. He's not going to be surprised, and he's not going to be confused. He's going to think, I was waiting for you. Come on in. I've got this spot just for you. And it will be a wonderful place because wherever it is, Jesus will be there with us. Believe in God. Believe also in Jesus. He has a place prepared for us. And you could trust that because he's the way and the truth and the life. God is so good to us. He's blessed us so much. May God bless us all.